Good morning, or welcome into whatever time it happens to be for you when you're engaging with this little resource here. My name's Alyssa. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her. Not that you're going to have to speak to me anytime soon. Likelihood is that we may never connect in that way, or maybe we already are and we know each other. But welcome. You're welcome to this resource no matter how well we know each other or not. This is a video of flowing yoga, Vinyasa yoga, and the intention is always just for it to be accessible to you, for you to use it forever, however you would like to. And so there's a lot of context for you to change it. The intention is that it be a resource for you to practice healing, for you to practice your own wellness, for you to practice self-kindness, for you to sort of train yourself for this world that we're in, which feels a lot more like it requires training to me than maybe it used to. And really, that's one of those things about yoga that I've been thinking a lot about that I'd like to share. Remember, you can always fast forward if you're like, oh, sharing's not for me today. I love that about this tool, actually, that you can pick and choose. But for me, I came to yoga because I was having trouble functioning at a par level, at sort of a worldly acceptable level. I don't want to call it normative because I don't really think of it that way. But figuring out how to have enough resiliency to interact with people, to be myself, to create things, to contribute to cultures and communities that I care about, etc. And yoga for me was this actual tool to figure out how to practice being myself and practice being alive and practice failing and practice succeeding and practice joy and practice sorrow, all the things. A lot of it came from me from a feeling background because I think feelings have a lot of power, especially when we figure out how to channel them and how to be with them. A lot of feelings are hard to be with. And so I think that yoga, for me, it's important to say out loud, is something that allows us to be resilient with our emotions, to know that they aren't us, to know that they are something that we're working with, something we're experiencing like everything else in the world, but that they're also not things to be ignored. And sometimes yoga can be sort of written about or seen as this practice of suppression of how we feel or suppression of how we think. And instead, it just asks us really to be all those things, right? Really to have a broad scale of balance and a network of everything. Right? And so as we work towards, I love this flag blowing in the background, breezy day, unusual here this time. But we have a little bit of time to think about this now, perhaps, and to think about our practice as something we're building. So as I release these videos, I also want to use them as slightly different tools than just pretending we're in a room together and I'm teaching you a sequence of yoga asanas, because we're not. So I want to broaden the format a little bit. So I will talk a lot about the intention of the posture we're doing and why we're doing it, and I'm going to give more options about how to change things, etc. And I like this idea of using this as a way to think about how to build your own practice, so that some days you might, turn off the video entirely and just do your own thing. That this might be a sort of measure between a lily pad, a frond jump between having totally a guided practice to maybe totally a independent study practice or something like that. You could utilize this as a way to build. So that's the offering. All right. I like to get started in a seat. You can start in any position you like, on your back, in a chair, on your side, sitting up on something, especially if that allows the knees to lower down and the hips to be relieved of some compression. I like to start by uniting with rounds of Om. Om is a seed sound, and when we say that, we mean that it's a sound of the universe, a universal sound. I have a friend and teacher who often talks about this as, a sound almost anyone could make if you're making sound in your body. But obviously, even this, right, isn't something that necessarily everyone can engage in the same way. And so the offering is an attempt at universality so that we can acknowledge, resonate, and have an experience of our interconnection with all things. If for any reason it doesn't work that way for you, or it's not something you want to engage in, feel free not to fast forward or to sit with us in presence instead. You might close the eyes or gaze down at one spot on the earth in front of you. Rest your hands in relative neutral. Bring your body into a place that feels of relative ease. Often we get caught up in managing the body towards perfection and posture. See if instead you can look for balance. Where can you still be soft? There's no goal or external aesthetic you have to provide for a viewer. To clear and prepare the channel of your body, take a big free inhale in through your nose. And open mouth exhale each day. Inhale, prepare for Om. Take a long inhale in through your nose and a slow exhale out. When you're ready, you can flutter your eyes open. I'll offer today that we begin in child's pose. Often these practices, flowing yoga, begin in a grounding posture. And we talk about grounding, we really do mean coming towards the ground, but also bringing ourselves into an internal place to start the work of pratyahara, of drawing into the ground of the self. So child's pose, you might bring your hips to your heels and fold forward. I have a block here. Sometimes I stack it under my head. You could also put a lift or a cushion underneath your hips or slide the body weight forward more into your elbows if that gives you relief. You could also lie on your side or your back or lie on your belly, one ear turned. Choose to remain in a meditation seat. There's a lot of options. So if maybe for a long time you've been doing it one way, especially if that feels like a good challenge or idea, you might attempt to try it differently. Sometimes that arbitrary experimentation is useful. I laugh because a bee just flew across the camera. I always take the time at the beginning of practice myself to acknowledge the realities around me. Right? What is the temperature, the wind blowing in the trees? For me, I'm outside on a farm, so sometimes the rooster calling or construction of a new building going, or the fact that I have to wave away a wasp occasionally. You might think of that yourself, right? Maybe how much time do you have, whether it's the length of this video or not. Just acknowledge those things. Remember that you are the manipulator of this reality, right? You are the creator of it to a degree from that perspective-based point of view. And so you have a lot of power, at least in this module of practice, to consider using those things to your advantage. Frictions that we have give us an opportunity to practice. The imperfections, in fact, give us that potential. And so allow things to be as they are and begin to use your sensibilities as you settle in to a kind, soft position for you to notice that which is around you. Sensation wise, you might do it with your eyes, whether they're open or closed. What are you listening for with your ears? What is far and what is close? What do you sense with your skin, temperature, texture, your clothes on your back? As you go inward, the senses of smell and taste, you might draw into the sense of proprioception. It's sort of your squish receptor. Your body knows where the pressures are to tell you about shape. You also use this to tell you your distance from things around you to a degree. You might notice old aches, new pains, identify feelings in your body in the way that you always do in whatever language or modality that is. And do your best to let these things be open without judgment or decision making, without identifying or identifiement or attachment. Give yourself space. And it's all just a practice. You don't have to achieve anything, right? The ask is really only that you be what you are and that you allow yourself to take that as enough, right? To take yourself as enough to be valuable, your own attention, to be humble with your own attention. And as you go inward to the energy of the body, perhaps you have an energetic practice and you notice how your chakras are spinning and your nadis are winding, etc. You might also pay attention just to your state of being. How much energy do you have right now at this time? Does it have any mood or quality? Is there lethargy or brightness, emotion to be acknowledged? Is there any pattern of thinking to be acknowledged? What is the form and content of your thoughts? And remember that again, you are not your thoughts. You're just that which is paying attention to it. And allow yourself to continue to consider that all these things change and anything coming and going is valid and useful and a part of your experience, but you also don't have to be it. It is not all that you are. It's often this perspective on time, things pass, that change really takes maybe more time than our short species of lifespan can give us. Consider your perceptibility and continue to come back to paying attention to how things really are in the here and now by tapping in to these sensibilities and tapping into your awareness of your ability to witness even those things that seem like attachment. Little by slowly, we'll begin to breathe in the Ujjayi form. If you have an Ujjayi practice, begin that upward liberating breath, the snoring. Some people call it oceanic breath. Often we describe it in the throat, but really what's happening is your diaphragm is being pushed and pulled. You're really trying intentionally to rise and fall and to let the accessory breathing muscles of your belly and back, of the floor of your pelvis, your chest and your throat help you exhale, help you manipulate the vacuum of your lungs. If it's new to you, go ahead and exhale the air you have in your body right now, wherever you are in your breath. And then slowly inhale in through your nose. Try to slow it down as you feel your belly cavity, your rib cage, maybe up into your back and chest, and hold it mostly full. And then, like you're fogging a mirror, open mouth, exhale each A. You can do that again if you'd like. Inhaling in through the nose slowly. It doesn't have to be a super loud sound to be effective. The pace and the depth is really what we're considering. And again, you could open the mouth, HA. Notice what happens when you make that shape. And then Ujjayi, inhale in through your nose slowly. Filling your body three-dimensionally and softly retaining Kumbhaka, holding it mostly full. Seal your lips and sigh out through your nose. That same HA feeling, but through the nostrils. And continuing in through the nose, snoring. Out through the nose, sighing. And the breath is our touchstone. It's our way in and out of the self, into our internal reality, back out to the external shared realities. And so keep with the breath. I suggest that you think about lengthening it more than you think about making it loud. You think about feeling its physical experience of expansion and deflation, and that you come way more interested in the breath than you are in the posture. Way more interested in using the breath to move you. If it becomes held or choppy, change your approach. Little by slowly start to move your body. If you're in child's pose or another shape, you might begin to shift front to back or wiggle your fingers or roll your forehead. And you might begin to move towards a tabletop position from any other shape that you're in. And as you draw yourself upward into a shape like this, you might pad your knees if they feel bony on the ground or your wrists. You can shift from side to side, front to back, make some circles around the wrist hang to figure out, where in space stability is. Talk a lot about architecture, and gravity really gives us a sense of where we can be efficient as opposed to trying to line ourselves up to right angles, etc., and straight lines. Know that you're made of curves, arches, springs. You're always going to be trying to find the spring back of gravity in any and every shape, whether it be passive or active. Once you're in tabletop, let's do a little bit of wrist stretching. You can take your fingers and turn them straight out to the sides and start there. And then let's go side to side gently, back and forth. You can inhale to the left and exhale to the right if you like. Wrist strength takes time. I think I practiced yoga that loaded in my hands for probably 4 or 5 years before my wrists didn't sometimes feel sore or tired or like they were creating a lot of new boundaries every single time I practiced. Well, if that's happening to you, know that it's likely normal. Be kind to your wrists, and it doesn't have to be a lot of work for them. You can come to your forearms, do standing versions. Always feel free to reach out if you're not sure how to move around wrist injury. Then you could turn your hands all the way back, fingertips towards your knees if it feels good. I have to bring my knees a little more forward so my wrists don't feel over compressed. And I bend my elbows a little so they don't hyperextend. And here you can go side to side again. Start to go front to back just, ever so slightly. It'll be like a really little movement. Inhaling and exhaling as you go. All right, let's get out of that. Come back forward. All right, now we're going to do a little bit of these lift ups onto the fingertips. So you're going to roll your body weight forward and press into your fingers. Try to keep them relatively straight as you come up, and then exhale to come down. You can do this one hand at a time if it feels like too much in the center of the body or strain on the neck. Inhale up, exhale down. Press into your fingers. And sort of like you're rolling through the wave of your wrist. So if you'd like to pick your fingers up at the bottom, if that feels good. It won't in everybody. Good. And settle your hands down. Let's let the backs of the hands down. And this portion of class is really all what I think of as preparatory actions. When I practice in a free format on my own, I take the time just to think about like what would feel good. Stretch my wrists today. Another day I might be stretching my hamstrings or starting in a forward fold instead. And you're always welcome to start to think about what is right for you. That wasn't a posture, just a wasp shooing away. And then slowly releasing anything that isn't for you. And also knowing the depth in some of these actions might be about 10-15%, and that depth can be effective, sometimes even more so than like 90 or 80 percentile work. And slowly return your palms to the mat. We'll do a little bit of similar action through the legs. So inhale to extend your right leg out long, curl under the toes and land on the ball of the foot. And we're just going to pump the foot. So kick the heel back on the exhales. Inhale to come forward. Press into your hands and try to relax the space between your ears and the tips of your shoulder blades. You might pull the bottom tips of your shoulder blades down, widen your collarbones, or even turn your fingertips more out than straight forward to find that open space you can integrate into the center as opposed to relying on the neck. All right, inhale, pick your right leg up in neutral. Exhale, sweep it out to the right. You can land on the blade of the foot or roll your foot down. And then I'm just doing the same thing, inhaling to come forward and back. Feel free to bend your knee. For a lot of us, the inner knee tendon starts to feel tender. We do want to focus on the inner thigh, which is a space that's tends to be very tight in the human body because of that whole bipedal thing we've been doing, standing on two legs, wrapping our mobility underneath the pelvis so we can give birth to bigger brain babies, or so I'm told. Inhale, pick your right leg up and sweep it back. And exhale, bring your knee towards your nose and your chin towards your chest, just a little round in for the center of the body. Press into your hands and take a couple of breaths here. Use every inhale to spread the dome of your lower back. And every exhale to gather your leg in towards your body. If you practice Uddiyana and Mula Bandha, you might gather your navel in as in the exhales as well. Gather the floor of the pelvis up. All right, we're going to do a back bend. Inhale, take your right leg out and up. Lift your chest up. If it feels good, only go as far as you find use. And exhale, place your right knee back down on the ground. All right. Inhale, take your left leg out long, curl your toes under, and exhale, land the ball of your foot on the mat and start to shift front to back. Pay attention to movement even when it's simple. Have a little space in this practice for some creative movement on your own. Take some time to notice what it is to do something relatively simple and what you feel, especially over repetition. A lot of physical formats where you repeat things over and over again. If you're someone who tends to get bored upon repetition, see if you can continue to turn your attention towards really how everything that happens is unique unto itself. Really, we never repeat anything. They're all isolated experiences or part of the same continuum. Good. Inhale, pick your left leg up and circle it out to the left. Exhale to put it down on the ground out there. My deck ends, but you hopefully have ground over there. You can shift back and forth, inhaling and exhaling. Once more, I'm going to slide over. Notice your breath. If you're like me, you tend to have anxiety responses. You might notice your back teeth holes, or you hold the breath, or you scrunch the eyebrows, or clench the butt cheeks, or anything like that. And that's pretty normal, right? Our human world, a lot of these responses have been kind of trained into us. So again, you don't have to identify with them or lament them, but you might just notice. And anytime you do, like a boomerang again and again, return yourself towards relative softness in those places. Good. Inhale, pick your left leg up and circle it back behind you. Exhale, gather your knee to your chest. You can tuck your chin if you wish. If it feels good, press into your hands. Take a few breaths into the back of your low spine and exhaling and draw the 2 points more together. You might also notice the hamstring and the Achilles tendon shortening the back of the leg. Good. Inhale to extend the left leg out and then up. Lift your chest up, spin your heart forward. And exhale, knee down. on the mat. All right, cow-cat breathing. These are spinal undulations. Inhale, cow pose, a back bend. Drop your belly and ribs, lift your chin and tailbone up. Exhale, cat pose, tuck your chin around your spine. Follow your breath through these two actions. Inhaling to open the front seam and exhaling to open the back seam. Active musculature is usually in the part of your body that's shortening. So it's your back muscles contracting to create the back bend to a degree, and your front body muscles to create the back body extension or rounding. And in Vinyasa yoga with our breath, we tend to coordinate this way. Inhales taking us to back bending or to out and up. Exhales taking us to contraction in the front seam, down and also in. Obviously, there are different ways to do it, so you could always try the opposite pattern. For some people, it feels better. And slowly return to center. Address the shoulders just a little bit before moving into sun salutation. So plant down into your right hand and inhale to take your left arm out and then up, twisting to the left. Exhale, thread the needle underneath and behind. Come to your shoulder, ear, jaw, and breathe. However, the 12 years of teaching yoga, what I can say is there's no such thing as a posture that isn't actually purgatory for somebody. So if you get into this pose and you think, this can't be right, I feel terrible, first and foremost, try to change it. You're welcome to shift more forward or back. Your anatomy is yours, right? You're the only one who really knows how it feels. You might use more or less support for your arm. You could also use padding underneath you. Breathe as you turn to twist, and know that if none of those things allows you the space you need, you can change this, make it upright. And suddenly, you're doing the same thing from another perspective, right? Stretching through the arm, turning to twist. This is shoulder compression to a degree and a spinal twist for most of us. It's also an inversion. So you could choose one or any of those physical intentions to start with. From an energetic perspective, when we address and open the back seam of the body, you might consider it as the part of you that allows things to go, that allows to let go of what is not for you, things that don't get caught in the filter, as it were, of yourself. And how can you allow that to be true? Create malleability and awareness of that physical space. Return your right hand to the mat when you're ready, breathing as you inhale to reach your left arm out and then up. And exhale the left hand down on the mat. Let's do the other side. Inhale, right arm out and up. And exhale, thread the needle underneath and behind. Come down to your shoulder, ear, or jaw and breathe. Side to side may be quite different. So many of us are actually asymmetrical. I have a torqued pelvis and a little bit of scoliosis and some injuries on one side. Many people do, right, and don't really even necessarily know it. You can live a full, happy, healthy, vibrant life if you're asymmetrical. And after all, almost everybody, has their liver on one side and their stomach and spleen on the other, right? So we're not quite symmetrical. It's just one of the many maps that's built into how we see ourselves in these bodies, in this nature, in this lifetime. When you're ready, bend your left hand down and inhale your right arm out and then up. And exhale, two hands down on the mat. Very nice. Good. Inhale, curl your toes under, cow pose. Exhale, down dog. Spin your hips and thighs up and back. You might drive your heels down and begin to move. Down dog is in a lot of yoga practices, but it might not be for you. You could always use elbows down to relieve the wrists. You could hang your hands off of the edge of blocks or even on top of blocks to lift you up. You are always welcome to keep your knees bent in a shape like this, to widen the hands and turn the fingers more out to address the shoulders. You could also use tabletop, child's pose, a seat, as alternative actions to this work. Be kind to yourself. It's all a tool. The ritual of intention is more important than sort of which objects you choose to place it on. It is the importance that we are paying attention to, right, in general. You make the posture a thing, right, by allowing yourself to be in dialogue with it. All right, let's come to forward fold. Inhale, bend your knees, look forward. Exhale, walk your feet up and hang. You're welcome to widen your feet. Often do this first one as a ragdoll shape to release and hang the spine, a little bit of yin action, connective tissue address. You might grab for opposite elbow and sway. You could also choose to interweave your fingers at the base of your neck or the base of your tail, or let your hands fall and the palms face up towards the sky. Try to relax your neck and jaw. Let your body have permission to hang. Good. Take an inhale and use the exhale to release your arms out of any chosen grip. And choose what feels like neutral feet for you. You can always change your mind and experiment, but I like my feet together, which most people actually don't. So you're welcome to keep an inch between your heels or to keep your feet 2 inches apart, or more stability would be nice. You can keep your feet more like 6, 8 inches apart in that hips distance position. Try to stack underneath your sockets where it feels like natural architecture for you. Bend your knees as little or as much as you'd like in any forward fold throughout practice. And slowly, breath by breath, we'll round ourselves up to standing in Samasitihi, same on all sides. And some people call this Tadasana, the mountain pose. And you might consider Samasitihi more as an idea of energy that we practice in all of our postures, but that we touch on and remember when we're in this shape. Sama means same, equilibrium, same as, balanced. And asitihi means to stand in or at your own attention, standing on all sides, right? Standing with all things, right? I say a lot of definitions because Sanskrit has many layers, so I don't want to leave anything out. We often have to hold multiple truths on one another to really understand anything. So as you stand in Samasitihi, close the eyes if it's available. If it feels more settling, stabilizing to keep them open, just pick a spot in your space to see. And then think about your skull and your heels, and how you're stacking your skull over your heels, perhaps, or over the balls of your feet. You might also feel through your socks or through the mat, through the blanket or whatever, the floor below you or the ground. And notice if you're grabbing with your toes to stabilize and soften that. See if you can shift a little from side to side, front to back. Another one of my teachers asks us to do the shifting, and it can be unsettling for some. So if it's not for you, feel free to skip the eyes closed part so you feel real powerful. It's not a test to make you fall down. It's just to notice that all the time you're doing this work, when you're writing checks, when you're taking your children to school, when you're at home making your food, right, your body is doing this and you're just not noticing with your direct consciousness. And so that's just something to note, right? As we pay attention to this relationship between gravity and ourselves, between our breath dynamic and the atmosphere around us, what we're really doing is figuring out how to bring our consciousness into what relates to the here and now. On your next inhale, flutter your eyes open. Next exhale, tune into what's around you. Next, we'll do Surya Namaskara A, which means sun salutations. These are actions to salute the sun and to bring out our solar energy. I'm going to offer a couple of different options. If you know what you want to do, though, go to town. So heavy sun salutation practice, many repetitions to come. I start slow. Inhale, arms up for Urdhva Hastasana. It means arms up pose, reaching up. You're welcome to have hand shoulder distance or elbows bent. If it feels good for you to press the palms and turn the thumbs up and look up. On your exhale, fold forward. Stick out your tail. Feel free to bend your knees. I draw my navel in and back to support my lower spine. Inhale, halfway lift. Unroll your heart straight out. You could bend your knees again and press your hands into your thighs. Think cow pose in the spine. Exhale, fold. Plant your hands and step your left foot back. Take an inhale and a low lunge. Exhale to plank and go to downward facing dog pose. Breathe. Now, often we think of salutations as where chaturanga vinyasas, all those yoga push-ups come from. You can totally remove them, and this is one of the ways to do it. Take an inhale And on your exhale, step your left foot forward, a little bit behind and inside of your left hand. You can always use blocks or a table or wall for hands to lift. Inhale and roll your heart. Exhale, step forward and fold. Good. Inhale, halfway lift. Extend your spine. Exhale, folding deeply. Inhale to the arms up pose. Urdhva Hastasana, reaching upward. And exhale back to neutral, Samasitihi, arms come down. A lot of yoga practices and systems have released neutral, have stopped doing it. You may notice they often move through it. You may even think, oh, I'm ready to forward fold because you're used to it. I wonder why we've removed neutral from the practice, right? Especially in a practice that's about balance, balancing effort with ease, structure with softness, yin with yang. Good. Inhale, take your arms up, reaching up, solar posture. Exhale, forward fold, dive in. Inhale, halfway lift, unroll your spine. Exhale, fold, step right foot back. Inhale, cow lunge is what we often call this pose. Exhale, downward facing dog pose, and breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Press into your hands. You can stay as little or long as you'd like in down dog. And I do suggest 3 to 5 breaths if it's available. Take a big free inhale, and on your exhale, step your right foot forward and behind your right hand. Inhale and roll your heart. Exhale with one or many steps, come to the top and fold down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms up pose. Use your middle back muscles if you can circle out and up kindly. Exhale, Samasitihi, return to neutral. All right, and here's how you might add some of that push-up and spine strengthening business. Inhale, arms up, reaching upward. Exhale, fold forward and down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, left foot back. Inhale, cow lunge. Exhale, plank pose. Lower all the way down. I use my knees on the way. Tops of your feet down. Kick the earth with them. Inhale, cobra. Peel your heart forward and up. Exhale to bring your chin or forehead down. We'll do a few more of these. You can tent to the fingertips if you like. Inhale, peel up, widen the elbows if you wish. Exhale, come down. One more. You can also spend your time inhaling up through the Sphinx pose, if that feels kinder, and exhaling to round and bring your forehead down. And once you're down after that third repetition, curl your toes under, plant the hands under your shoulders, plug your kneecaps down and stick your tail up. Inhale through plank on the knees and exhale back to downward facing dog pose, breathing in through the nose, out through the nose. Try to flood your back lungs, your back rib cage with your breath. Notice if you can press the earth away without creating tension, like it's not a fight, it's a collaboration. Use your next exhale to step your left foot forward. Inhale and roll your heart. Exhale, step to the top and forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold down. Inhale, arms up pose, Urdhva Hastasana, reaching upward. Exhale, Samasitihi, stand in neutral. Inhale, arms up, reaching up. Exhale, folding. Breathe. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold and step your right foot back. Inhale, cow lunge. Exhale, plank. Chaturanga with the knees to lower all the way down. Tops of your feet down. Inhale, cobra. Exhale to lower. Curl your toes. Inhale, plank. Exhale, down dog. So if you find a version or variation you like, then stick with it. You could also use it every time you practice, whether you're using a video and I'm cueing it or something different, or whether you're practicing on your own. Sun salutations are a good starting place you want to practice and it feels difficult or there are many obstacles, maybe you could just decide 5 sun salutes would be enough today and start there. In your next exhale, step your right foot forward between your hands. Inhale, cow lunge. Exhale, forward fold at the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, folding. Inhale, arms up pose, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, Samasitihi. All right. We're going to take out the lunge now. You could keep it. Inhale, arms up, reaching upward. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step or float back to plank position and lower halfway or all the way down. From all the way down or halfway down, inhale to upward facing dog. So you might have to sort of slide yourself forward and press your feet down. You can use the knees as an intermediary, but eventually they lift. Exhale to downward facing dog pose. Breathe. And the spinal strengtheners, cobra and down dog, are equally valuable and equally difficult. You could always choose one or the other, to do Sphinx instead. Just skip back bending entirely if it's not the work for you today or right now. On your next exhale, step or float forward, land on your feet soles. Inhale, halfway lift, unroll your heart. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms up, pose, Urdhva Hastasana, reaching all the way up. Exhale, Samasitihi, stand in neutral. Inhale, arms up, reaching upward. Exhale, forward fold, dive down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, chaturanga. Step or float back and lower halfway. I'm going to do it with my knees this time. Inhale, upward dog. Exhale, downward facing dog pose. Breathe. On your next available exhale, press into the hands and step or float forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms up pose, Urdhva Hastasana, reaching upward. Exhale, Samasitihi, stand in neutral. Inhale, arms up, reaching up, extending the spine. Exhale, forward fold, dive down, compressing the body. Inhale, halfway lift, unrolling the compression. Exhale, chaturanga, step or float and lower halfway or all the way. Inhale, upward dog pose or an alternative. Exhale, downward dog pose. Sometimes you gotta unroll your feet one at a time. Breathe. As you start to get a pattern that feels familiar, see if you can repeat the pattern and pay less attention to the pattern, more attention to yourself inside of the pattern, your body inside of the pattern, your sensations inside of the pattern. Allow yourself to notice that you are the thing that is happening. On your next available exhale, step or lightly float to the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms up pose, reaching upward. Exhale, Samasitihi. All right. I'm going to work next on Surya Namaskara B, and we're actually going to try a version of it where we don't load bear in the hands quite so much. This can be helpful as a way to build strength in the lower body and give your shoulders a break. If you prefer traditional Sun B, you know what to do. Take a big free inhale in. Exhale, bend your knees, sink your hips low for Utkatasana. Now in Utkatasana, you want to sit low enough that the hamstrings start to work, and then sit back so you can stick your tail out. The more forward you are, the more difficult it will be to flare your tail. Flaring the tail is just so you can start to upright the body. You're using the same muscles to shorten the tail up as you are to draw the shoulder blades down. It's a back bend. I think, to the best of my ability. And draw your arms out to the side or forward. Up overhead is classic, but be kind to your shoulder structure. The palms can press and you can gaze up without creating congestion in your neck or tension in your jaw. Feel free. Plug your heels down, soften your toes, and it's okay if your knees split apart or if you like to do this with feet hips distance. That's another good option. Take a big free inhale in and exhale, forward fold, dive down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold and step your left foot back. Warrior one, spin your left heel down to the earth. You can climb up your knee or rise up. Inhale, the arms up. Same deal with the upper body as in Utkatasana, the fierce pose, the posture of squatting we just did that some people call chair. You can plug your back heel down. And don't worry too much. Your pelvis will turn towards the left side of your mat, top left corner. Try not to square it. Oh, your pelvis, she's round. You know you want to give your pelvis a lot of space to be curved. Draw your right thigh bone back without coming out of your lunge, and press your left thigh bone forward from the ground beneath your back heel. You can add back bending if it feels good by looking up and leaning your heart back. Take an inhale. Exhale slow, fingertips down, look forward and step forward to fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold and step your right foot back. Spin your right heel down and rise up. Inhaling to lift, using the exhale to drop down. Plug your back heel down. Let your pelvis turn and twist. And see if you can let it be heavy. Let gravity pull it down. Lift your rib cage up as you breathe. Remember, your body is already divine as it is, already has dignity and deserves your attention. You don't need to manage it so that it looks a certain way. Feel for stability and ease. Take another big free inhale. Exhale slow, hands down, heel up, step forward, and fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Inhale, arms forward, out or up. Still inhaling, stand up. Exhale, Samasitihi. Bend your knees, sink your hips. Inhale, Utkatasana, fierce pose. Exhale, Uttanasana, fold down. Inhale, halfway lift. Let's switch it up. Exhale, fold right foot back, right heel down. Inhale, warrior one with your left foot forward. Exhale, forward fold to the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, left foot back. Heel down. Inhale, warrior one from the ground beneath your feet. Exhale, step forward and fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold and bend your knees. Inhale, arms up. Still inhaling, rise all the way up. Exhale, Samasitihi. Bend your knees, sink your hips. Inhale, fierce pose. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, left foot back. Inhale, warrior one. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, step right foot back. Inhale, warrior one, rise up, follow your breath. You can always add an extra breath or two. Exhale, forward fold to the top. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold and bend your knees. Inhale, fierce pose. Still inhaling, stand all the way up. And exhale, Samasitihi. Bend your knees, sink your hips. Let's do it one more time like this. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, right foot back. Inhale, warrior one. The noble hero pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, left foot back. Inhale, warrior one. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bend your knees as you fold. Inhale, Utkatasana, still inhaling, rise. Exhale, Samasitihi. Nice work. Usually we move next into standing postures and actions like that give us a little bit of room to move our body in more complicated ways with more twisting, more side bending, more lateral movements. And so you could always pause here and go to rest if you've already done enough or this is the time amount that you have. You could also allow yourself to move into ending or finishing postures before you did that. You could give yourself space if you have the time to move in this way. So I'm going to start with the basic folds. This is a little bit like Ashtanga. We fold at the hips, bend your knees. You could also do this sitting in a chair and fold forward over your legs. You could take 2 peace sign fingers around your big toes. I'm going through my socks. And also choose to slide the palms of your hands under the soles of your feet. Inhale and roll your heart, and exhale, folding deeply. Bend your elbows and pull. If this grip is not for you, there's lots of good alternatives. You could interweave your fingers at the base of your neck, the base of your tail, like we did earlier. You could hug around the legs. You could also choose to make this floppier, as it were, to let there be that ease of unrolling in a spectrum where everything is equinomical. It means that it all has value, right? So whatever you choose, turn your attention towards it. It's what's happening right now in the universe of you. Good. Inhale and roll your heart. Exhale, release your hands out of any grip and fold forward. Good. Soften your knees and let's step the left foot back. Good. Spin your left heel down and inhale to rise to warrior one. Arms come up, reaching upward. We're going to exhale open to warrior two. So you might widen your feet. Some people like to bring the feet more into one line, etc. You could reach your arms out, drop your shoulders down. You can gaze out past your right hand. You're also welcome not to. All right, inhale, straighten your right leg and turn your right toes in. And exhale, turn your left toes to the left and bend your left knee into warrior two, facing the back of your space. Perspective shift is a good idea, I think, in general. Good. Take a big free inhale in where you are. And exhale slow, hands to the earth. You can step back in Vinyasa, high to low and up to down dog, or you can come to forward fold at the top of the mat. That's where we're about to go. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, step or float. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Soften through your knees and step your left foot back once again. This time high on the ball of your back foot or back knee down instead of back heel down. Inhale, rise, high lunge, crescent lunge, Anjaneyasana. Reach your arms up, frame your face. Exhale, warrior two, put the heel down. Maybe there's less shifting, a closer length in warrior two. Inhale, straighten your right leg, turn your foot in. Exhale, bend your left knee and face to the left. And take a big free inhale in and exhale, hands down. Either step back in Vinyasa or we'll meet you at the top of the mat in forward fold. These Chaturanga Vinyasas or half sun salutations tend to link things together in these practices. Inhale to prepare if you need to. Exhale to step or float forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And step your left foot back, step your right foot back. There we go. Spin your right heel down. So left foot forward, right foot back. Don't let me confuse you. Inhale, rise up to warrior one. Exhale, open it up to warrior two. Good. Inhale, straighten your left leg, turn the toes in. Exhale, right toes to the back of your space and bend your knees. Sometimes teachers call these around the world sequences. I like them as a way to get out of the one orient forward. Good. Take a big free inhale in. And exhale, bring your hands down and either step back in Chaturanga Vinyasa or step forward and fold. And from down dog, if you're there, take a big free inhale. And exhale, step or float to the top. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward, fold. All right. Step your left foot back to the back of the mat. Long, low lunging. Or no, step your right foot back. I'm going to get this eventually. All 10 toes face forward. So left foot forward again, right foot back. Inhale the arms up. reaching upward into that crescent lunge shape. Take your time to find it, land in the front heel. And I like to really think about extending my back leg, but if that all goes into your lower back, you may have to think about tucking your tail under and creating active resistance by drawing your strong abdominal muscles back. Take a big free inhale. And exhale to warrior two. Spin yourself wide and open. Inhale, straighten through your left leg and turn your toes in. Turn your right toes forward and exhale, warrior two to the front. Take another big free inhale in. Exhale, hands down. Chaturanga, down dog, or you could step forward into the fold. Inhale to rise and exhale to drop down. Good. I'm going to add to this complexity of sequence. Take a big free inhale in. Exhale, step or float forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Step your left foot back. All right. Spin your left heel down and inhale to rise up. Warrior one. Let's make this a side body bend. So you can grab your left wrist with your right hand and lean to the right. Play around with staying low in your lunge, with leaning back away from your front leg, or with intentionally leaning forward. You can also turn your heart to the left and get more side body lengthening sometimes that way. Good. Inhale, rise, warrior one. Exhale, open, warrior two. Let's reverse the warrior. Flip your right palm up and inhale to stretch up and back like you're throwing a ball behind you. You can look up or hang your head down. Try to stay in your lunge and bring your back hand to a supportive place on your back leg. If you're holding your breath, take another inhale. And exhale to side angle pose. Bring your right elbow to your knee or your hand towards the earth, inside or outside of your foot. Left arm up or over. Plug your heels down. Take 3 slow breaths. Inhale stands you up. Turn your right toes in and exhale. Left toes to the left. Bend your left knee, warrior two. Inhale in through your nose. Exhale, hands down. Either step forward to fold or step back and go high to low with your exhale. Inhale through up dog. Exhale to down dog. Take another in-breath in and exhale to step or float forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold and step your left foot back once again. I'm going to drop my knee down, but you can keep all 10 toes forward and keep it lifted if you prefer. Inhale to rise up. We're going to add twisting. Exhale, an open twist to the right. So right arm back and left arm forward. You might turn and look back. You're welcome to use that hand, palm on the outside of the knee. Push the knee into the hand to create torque. You're welcome to lean back into backward bending if it feels interesting to twist and back bend at the same time. You could also lean forward and hook your elbow over your knee, press your palms together, or reach around. If you'd like to take revolved extended side angle, a form of it beyond this that you'd like to practice, feel free to do so. If binding or half binding is for you, you're always welcome to those options, even if they're not mentioned. That's really true for almost all options that are in kindness for you. Good. If you bound up or wound back, slowly inhale your way back through center and reach your arms up overhead if you'd like. And exhale, hands down to frame that right foot. If you drop the back knee, untuck and rise. Inhale, crescent lunge. And exhale, warrior two. Good. All right, inhale, straighten your right leg and turn your toes in. And exhale, wide-footed forward fold, Parsvakanasana, hands on the hips, fold down. Feel free to stop upright. You could put a block or a chair in front of you and let your upper body be as tall as you'd like it to be. Work to straighten your legs. That doesn't mean they need to look straight yet, but engage the inner thighs, press out away from each other. If you're folding deeply, the crown of your head is coming towards the earth. Try not to rock back into your heels. Roll your tailbone forward and up on top of your skull. Opposite of the way you did in Samasitihi, bringing your skull on top of your pelvis and heels. Inhale and roll your heart. Exhale, hands on your hips. Inhale to stand up. And exhale, warrior two to the front of your mat. Turn your left toes forward, bend your left knee, reach your arms out. Take a big free inhale in, and exhale, hands down. Step back to move through Vinyasa, or step forward to forward fold. Follow your breath into your experience, no matter what you're doing with the bones in space. Inhale and exhale to step or float to the top of your yoga mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And step your right foot back. Spin your right heel down. Inhale, rise to warrior one. Exhale, side bend to the left. You can grab your right wrist and lean over. Take a few breaths. A lot of systems, we stay for maybe a timed period in the posture. We stay for a timed amount of breaths in the pose, even in Vinyasa. Remember that Vinyasa is a tool of flowing. You don't have to move the body to flow your breath. It's still happening. You could Vinyasa on the bus sitting there, Inhale back through center. We'll exhale to the warrior two, spread it wide. Flip your left palm up and inhale to reverse your warrior. Another side body lengthening. You can do this by turning your heart in a lot of different directions. Try to stay stable in your lower body so your upper body has an anchor to pull away from. Be kind. Minimal load bearing in your hands. Make sure your knees feel supported. Take another big free inhale. Exhale to Parsvakanasana, side angle. Elbow can come to knee. Your hand could come to a block, inside or outside of your foot. You can take your right arm up or over. If you're taking it over, think about internally rotating the arm so you can plug your shoulder blade down. You might gaze up and breathe. You're always welcome to work on any binding forms that you prefer in these poses. Good, very nice. Inhale, stands you up, straighten your left leg. Exhale, left toes in. Right toes to the back of the mat, warrior two, bend your knee. Take a big free inhale and exhale, hands to the earth. Spin your back heel up and either step forward to fold or step back to Vinyasa. Clearing the palate with the breath. And when you're ready to exhale, step or float, and we'll meet in forward folding. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold, and step the right foot back. I'm going to drop the knee again and rise up, inhaling. Exhaling to an open twist. Twisting my right arm forward and my left arm back. And then you're welcome to use your hand on the knee so you have a little space. Try to pull your shoulders down and your heart up as you twist so it doesn't become an action of the jaw, the scalenes, or the sternocleidomastoid along the sides of the neck. You could also work to bind your elbow around your knee or take this more into backward bending if that's what serves you. I'm here in this very dark moon, new moon moment, so back bending feels a little less reasonable most of that time. You might be a different part of the calendar. Good. In your next exhale, release your two hands to frame your front foot. Curl your back toes under and lift your knee up off the mat. Inhale to rise and exhale to open up into warrior two. Good. Inhale, straighten through your left leg and turn your toes in. I'm going to turn around, but you just go ahead and exhale to forward fold down. And this time, you're welcome to hang your arms. Perhaps you do something decidedly different than you did last time, the pushing leverage. I like pulling leverage, so I'll grab for my big toes, spread my elbows, and draw myself down. Breathe. Continue to go back to yourself. Notice if you're living in questions or answers, if you're creating stability and kindness. Inhale Unroll your heart. Exhale, hands to the hips. Inhale, stands you the rest of the way up. And exhale, warrior two to the right. Turn your right toes to the front of your mat and bend your right knee. You might take another big free inhale to spread out through your arms. And exhale, hands down. You can step back to Vinyasa or step forward. Chaturanga to lower if you're taking it. Inhale, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, the upward facing dog posture. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog. Good. Take a big free inhale in through your nose. And exhale through your nose. Inhale through your nose. Open mouth, exhale, HA. Inhale, bend your knees and gaze forward. And exhale, step or hop to the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms up pose, Urdhva Hastasana, reaching upward. And exhale, Samasitihi. Now I tend to skip the balancing parts of class to build them into our standing postures, but you are welcome to think of them as their own moment. I'm just going to teach two of them, but you could do any one-legged balancing posture. Maybe you're working on arm balancing. Remember, you have adapted over millions of years to walk on all fours and then to walk on two legs pretty recently, and really never to walk on one. So it's an adaptability practice always. If balance or vertigo is an issue, use a wall, put your hand on it. And remember, the tool is not bigger than you. You're not trying to achieve the pose. You're using this pose for your own practice. So choose one that allows you to be you while you practice. And we'll stand on the left foot and bend the right knee to start. Now you might even just put your foot down like a kickstand. This is Vrikshasana, tree pose in many parts, or turn your knee out to the right and rest your heel on your inner left thigh. Now you might know this pose and go ahead and head into that version. You put your foot on the calf. I avoid the knee. It can take some sideways pressure if you're paying attention. If you have knee issues, it might be a little bit of a funky thing to do, but generally we're told to avoid the knee because we're trying to press the leg back into the foot, two things pressing together. We want to let the thigh bone turn out in that folded leg. So you might be here with hands on hips or arms out to the side like a balanced tightrope. You might take your arms up overhead or gaze upward, growing your branches. If you practice handstands, you might consider that this is upside down handstand. In fact, for handstand is called Vrikshasana 2 usually. You might turn your palms up and press, plug your heel down and imagine that same length. Isn't it funny, right? If you stood on the sky, you would just be handstanding right now. All right, and take 3 or 4 more breaths. You can focus your eyes on one spot or even try closing your eyes altogether and play around with variant arm actions, side bends, twists. If you're feeling squirrely and that seems like a good use of your time. And slowly come back through center. Let's take the arms out. You could bring hands to hips if you prefer. And turn the right knee forward so it's just balancing in front of the hip socket. This is a form of Uddhita Hasta Padangusthasana, the extended big toe holding pose. Some people call a different version Janya Shirsasana, forehead to knee. The idea is eventually we extend the leg out. So you might take an inhale to lift your knee up, and exhale to extend the leg without letting it lower too much. Inhale, bend the knee and lift the thigh bone. Try to keep it as high as you can as you exhale to straighten. One more time. Inhale, lift, and exhale, straighten. Then we're going to put the foot down. You can roll your ankles around, etc. We'll do this set of 2 poses on the other side. Stand on your right foot, turn your left knee out, bring your foot to your calf or your inner thigh bone. You're welcome to bring hands to hips or arms out or up. Start to breathe where you are and notice. It could be different from side to side. Sometimes that's best to address the true asymmetries we have, just the feelings that we have, things that we learned from the last side. Turn your left thigh bone out. You can use your glute to help you wrap that action around. Sometimes you'll lift it up real high and it's sort of easy to kick out into your hip. Try to shorten your right hip muscle so you're plugging down direct into your heel without weight bowing out. Good. 3 more rounds of breath to be where you are. Very nice. And when you're ready, inhale to turn your left knee forward. Try to lift your thigh bone up to the height of your hip socket, maybe a little higher if you don't feel much in the front of the hip. Good. You can turn your palms up or bring your hands to your hips. Inhale to lift the leg. Exhale to extend it. Inhale, bend and lift it up. Exhale to extend it. It might be down here. Inhale, bend and lift. And exhale to extend. Good. And release. You can roll your ankle around a little bit if you'd like. Right, inhale, take your arms up overhead, reaching upward. Exhale, fold down. Inhale, halfway lift, unravel. Exhale, forward fold. Bend your knees and step or float back. Inhale, upward dog. Exhale, downward dog. We'll do some lower to the ground postures to stretch the hips. Inhale the right leg up and back, one-footed dog. First time, I know. Exhale, open the hip and bend the knee. You can also do this from tabletop if you like. When you're ready, use an inhale to reach and extend your right leg high and long, and exhale your right foot outside your right hand for lizard lunge. Now lower your knee. Now the lizard pigeon debate. I think that it tends to be sometimes one or the other feels more comfortable or more familiar. I think it's good to practice both. For a long time, I practiced pigeon and didn't do this pose. And a teacher introduced it to me, and at first I was like upset we weren't doing pigeon. Remember, attachment is a real thing, really, even in our bodies. It's been evolutionarily advantageous for us to be attached to things for our own survival, for our ability to find food. So when that comes up, notice, right, who you are around it and what you want it to do as far as leadership in the universe of you. Now, if you feel like there's a lot of pinch in your right hip, you can turn your right toes out or walk your right foot more wide out to the right. Some people will pad the back knee or keep the back toes curled so their kneecap feels placed. Sometimes it's fine just to bring the knee to the earth. You can stay down, coming to hands on a block or the earth. You can come down to your elbows or forearms. We'll work first into the folding compression and then go into a little bit of extension, twisting, back bending stuff. You are welcome to do this with the back knee lifted instead, make it more active, or to bring your right arm or forehead and back of neck behind your right knee if you prefer. Those are all good versions. You can also do this higher up with the back of your right thigh and pelvis on a chair, on the seat of a chair. Give yourself always creativity. Rise onto your hands and lift your upper body up. You bring your right hand to your right knee and start to turn and twist to the right. You might stay right here, bend your back knee. You might take your right arm up. You might reach around and create a bind. You can kick into the bind to extend into the shoulder and twist. You can use the bind to help press your heel towards your hip so that the quad and the psoas are lengthening. Breathe. Oh, release your back leg. I needed that quad stretch. Thanks for being there for that. Rise up onto your right leg and reach your left arm up. From here, you might back bend. You could also just extend upward because you're already back bending. You don't really need to do much more if it already feels like a good place to do that work. Just open up the front seam and breathe. If you feel like there's room, you could take your back hand to the earth or to your thigh and lean back. You can also use a stack of books, friendly lift like a block. Start to look up. If you're wily, your spine is young and tender, you might take both arms up and open if it feels real good. Most of us will want support. Activity in your lower body can help support you. Drive your two thigh bones to each other like you're trying to drag your back knee towards your front heel and vice versa. When you're ready, use an inhale to pull yourself back up and exhale your hands to the earth. Curl your back toes under and lift your knee. All right, and step back. You can move through a vinyasa or come all the way down to the front seam and come up into Sphinx. That's what I'm going to do for a few breaths to lengthen through the front seam without too much action. Head back to down dog, maybe by way of child's pose. Inhale to take your left leg up. When you're ready in down dog, exhale, open the hip, bend the knee. You can move it around a little or a lot. Make space for it. It might feel a lot after that last posture. When you're ready, step your left foot outside your left hand, lizard lunge. You can stay on your hands or come down to your elbows and forearms. And walk your foot out or turn your toes out. Rolling to the blade of the foot is fine. Just notice if like your ankle is mostly what's stretching because of that, and see if you can keep an angle, an eye on your foot so that you're really using that turn out to rotate at your hip socket. You are welcome again to variate this by doing the back knee lifted version, by bringing your knee behind your arm behind your knee, etc. And really, if anything else calls to you, you're welcome to do it. And slowly in the next few breaths, if you lower down, come up. Inhale to lift your left arm up or bring your left hand to your left knee and turn to the left. You might stay right here. You might bend your back knee or reach your arm up. You might reach around to bind the foot and take a different variation of some kind. And slowly release. You can climb up onto your left knee thigh and lift your upper body. You're welcome to take your right arm up. I'm going to put this block back here for my left hand again. You're always welcome to experiment with this. Maybe both arms up or cactus arm back bends with every exhale. Lift your chest. Lean back if it's for you. Be kind to yourself. There's no pot of gold at the end of the yoga posture rainbow. Nobody's going to love you more or pay you more. What is it for you? How does it feel for you? And can you value the experience you're having now? Because that is, after all, the you that you are. That is what's happening in this practice. When you're ready, use an inhale to rise up and exhale to release. Curl your back toes under. And you might step back, move through plank. You might come to upward dog and downward dog, inhaling and exhaling. And come forward to a seat when you're ready. And just a couple more finishing postures. This is when I will give an option for pigeon. If you want it, soles of your feet come together for Baddha Konasana. A lot of us will want to sit up on the edge of a block here, because sitting up on the edge of the block or a rolled up mat or towel will tilt the pelvis. If it feels way too high, choose a lower setting, right? Give yourself time to roll up something. Pause the video after all, Give yourself plenty of space to do that work. We're trying to tilt the pelvis upright, which will be difficult for many bodies. And that's kind of one of the things about the pose, creating impact on the body by doing something that's a little oppositional to what it often does. Roll the soles of your feet open and inhale, lift your heart. And on your exhale, you might just stay here and extend forward with that sense of length. You might round intentionally and bring your forehead to your toes. You could keep your hands on your feet. You could take your arms out long. Give yourself permission. I say that a lot, but it just always seems like we're trying to figure out how to do it right. And that's almost always running in somebody else's hamster wheel. And if you let yourself have space away from dualities like right and wrong, just for the practice, as far as judgment of yourself is concerned or judgment of the actual thing is concerned, you may find that you can understand that those two things still exist and there's still boundaries and limits, but you get to decide what they are as opposed to seeking external feedback for what those things ought to be. You can stay here, or you can slowly rise up. We'll roll to the outside edge of the right hip to come into half pigeon. And you can pause in this stag shape. I've sort of turned my back leg back, or you can go all the way around. I'm just turning so you can see me. You can stay on your mat into pigeon if it feels good. Alternatively, you could also roll down onto your back and take the figure four, cross your right knee over your left ankle. You could pick the leg up or keep it down. you would lower your upper body down to do that. If in Pigeon you feel some sort of need to bring your shin parallel to the front of your mat, I implore you to keep considering it and how it's benefiting you. Some bodies it will feel really good and it's the right thing to do. But for most people, you might find that keeping your heel closer to your left hip will give your hip on the right side more action than your knee. You could also lift yourself up on a block underneath your right hip, underneath your left hip. You put a pillow underneath both so you have lift. Or again, leg and hip up on a chair seat. You can come forward and down to hands or forearms. You're welcome to stay upright. There are lots of good backward bending, twisting, upright, neutral versions of this pose that you could take. And if you're coming down, let's come down and breathe for at least 5 to 7 rounds of breath. And so we're definitely in the part of the class that we think of as finishing postures or more restorative poses, things that we do often for time and in more of a relaxed or yin format where we allow connective tissue to be affected. And so slowly come up and turn yourself around, and you might go to the opposite side, whichever version you chose, and come forward and down into the thing. You could stay on hands or forearms. And things might be the same from side to side, but they are often different, and that is also okay. I encourage you, if you know it's much tighter on one side, maybe to stay in that side longer, to come into it sooner if it's the second side, etc. Address your body as it actually is, as opposed to how we imagine it might be. And this is external hip rotation, hip compression, and forward folding, flexion of the spine and the pelvis. That's why there's so many options. And your body can access those variant actions in the joints from many different perspectives and points of view. It's a modular practice. Maybe you like color coding, other people like alphabetic order. You're welcome to find your own ways into structure. Slowly press yourself up and roll to the outside edge of your hip and bring your leg back around. Dig your legs out long. You might roll your thigh bones in and out. Seated forward fold for a couple of breaths. You can pull the flesh out from underneath you. Bend your knees if you like, so that this is not so much about hamstring insertion, but back spine lengthening, etc. You're welcome also to sit up on something or to use a strap to reach your feet. You can reach for your feet or reach for the sky, but inhale, unroll like a halfway lift, and exhale to fold over your legs. This is often called the West stretch, Pashimottanasana, as the idea is these practices were done traditionally facing the sunrise in the east. And so when we forward fold, we are stretching likely to the west, as it were, the west part of ourselves. Our back bodies are getting longer. Doesn't necessarily change the way you do it. There's no harm in starting to figure out and piece together where these ideas come from and the worldview with which they were made, which is not my own, you know. Inhale, unroll your heart, and exhale, release to round up. We're going to round down onto the back, and I'm going to do a supported bridge pose. I have a styrofoam block. If you need blocks and don't have any, reach out to me. Otherwise, books will work just as well, and then you don't have to put another piece of styrofoam in the ocean. You can stack up books or stack up really anything sturdy. Pillows will work that will hold you, a small stool, etc. I'm going to use the block because it's what I have. Might as well use it. Roll down onto the back, and you can bend your knees and place the soles of your feet. Bend your knees and place the soles of your feet on the ground and lift your hips up. You can put the low setting underneath your hips, the middle setting or the high for some people will be best, or trying to put it underneath the sacrum. And your sacrum is this sort of upside down triangle or kind of diamond shaped bone at the back of the wing like bones of your pelvis. You can imagine the last time you saw a skeleton at Halloween or something. Just take a little bit of time to notice, as opposed to the curve of your lower back, which is kind of springy and mobile. This part of you will move your whole hips if you're trying to move it, sort of the top of your tail, but not your tailbone. And from here, you might shake your legs out long if your back feels really good about being compressed, or you could do this with your legs up a wall or an imaginary wall if you could come to one, or legs out wide. You can also choose to walk your feet wide and knock your knees in. Your arms can go anywhere you'd like. We'll take about 5 to 7 breaths. If you prefer the active version, feel free to lift yourself up off the block. You prefer Urdhva Hastasana, feel free to plant your hands and come on up, etc. Breathe where you are. Never allowing it to become violent. You can always work stamina, but if it starts to feel like, oh, it's just not kind anymore, you just come out of it then, no matter what time ramifications are set. Those things are just tools too, remember. And very slowly and kindly consider your exit. If this feels good and maybe you even want to rest where you are, you could just stay here. It is a light inversion. It tends to slow the heartbeat down. It's time to come out of it. Gently press into your heels to lift your hips up off of this block and roll yourself all the way down onto your back. You can bring your knees into your chest if you need to, but I suggest putting your feet on the ground and dropping your knees from side to side first. A little bit of loose twisting in the spine tends to be good. In fact, you can go ahead and stay with your legs to the left when it feels good. In any stack, you can always wrap the legs around in that eagle shape or put a block or a pillow between the knees. Just take the right leg over and send the left leg long like this. And bring your legs back through center on an inhale. Drop them over to the right and take some time there. Often teachers will tell you you need to keep your shoulder blade down. Neither your shoulder blade nor your knee needs to come down to the ground. You could always create lifts to catch them. Your shoulder blade, especially, that tension tends to constrict some blood vessels and brachial nerves in the shoulder and into the neck, which is not so wonderful for the body's general systems. So feel free to let it soften instead of perfecting it. And the same deal with turning your head. You don't need to look to the left. Of course, if it feels wonderful, then you can do it. Just notice why you're making the choices that you are. What is really kind and of ease versus what is performative or pushed or forced. Inhale your way back through center with your legs, and now you might exhale your knees in. Often offer a little inversion here. You might take happy baby, bring the soles of your feet up. You could take the supta form of the west stretch, Pashimottanasana, or take it over into plow pose, take it up into shoulder stand. If you know there was an inversion you wanted to work on and you didn't, you might also pause and take the time to do it, or really any posture that you want to work on that didn't happen. Take about 5, 7 breaths to do that work for yourself. And know along the timeline here that after that, the idea is to come into rest. So these are really rest preparatory actions, final sealing actions. There was a time when I considered myself to be somewhat of at least a budding carpenter. And one of the things we often don't think about is after the structure is there and all the bones are in place, right? Especially if somebody's going to use it, those ideas of beautifying by sanding down all of the edges, by staining and sealing so that your work lasts, so that it integrates longer and more effectively. I really think of finishing poses the same way that finish something like that and give yourself a little bit of time to notice that it's difficult to put a pin in anything, right? You could practice forever to a degree, and really we are. Right? This is just ritualizing the end, creating memories, physical patterns that allow us to integrate, that allow us to address, that allow us to unwind, and then allow us to practice being without having to do, without taking action, right? That paying attention. You think of that space between the inhale and the exhale where you're sort of out of fate, and out of action, or between the exhale and the next inhale, the kumbhakas. You might think also about these preparatory actions, getting you ready to float in a shavasana of that space, in a resting pose. So when you're done with your inverting, you come down, you're done with any last actions or rituals. And again, you might pause this and continue to do that before you join us. We'll meet in resting. You can lie on your back, your side, your belly. You could take a meditation seat. You could choose an altogether different action if it feels good for you. I suggest closing the eyes or picking a gaze spot that feels good. I suggest taking the last time you need to fidget and move everything around so that you can know you did what you could and then rest in that. I suggest slackening your face and giving yourself permission to sort of do what you need to do to feel safe and kind. Wrap yourself up in a blanket, check the door, do what you need to do to feel like you're in a space where you can let yourself relax. And I want to acknowledge some of us don't have the privilege of that, even inside of our yoga practice, and that may be true for you. Allow it to be what it can be. Do the best you can to create the kindest situation for yourself possible in this time. And then allow that to be valuable. Allow it to be enough. Allow your attention to rest in this experience. And if that's difficult, your mind wanders to other things, times, agitations, etc. Draw yourself back to the sound of your heart beating in your chest, your blood moving in your veins. Feel without manipulating your breath, its natural rise and fall. Let go of any ujjayi pranayama you may be doing and just observe. We'll rest this way for a few minutes. If you need longer, again, you might turn off the video, turn it back on when you feel ready to come out of the pose. Otherwise, I'll guide you up and out in a few minutes, and you can choose to join us then or not. Until then, practice paying attention to how things really are. Hmm. Oh. Sahana vavatu, sahano bunaktu, saha viryam karavavahai, tejasvi navaditamastu, mavit vashavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. As if from a great distance, begin to return your awareness to your felt sense in the here and now in the physical body. Go down and in to the sound of your heart beating, your breath moving, and slowly in your own timing, without rushing, return to action. If you'd like to remain in rest and just listen to all of this roll over you, that's fine too. Otherwise, you might ride your breath movements into a sense of awakening, into wiggling fingers and toes, running your tongue over your teeth, scrunching and spreading your face, shifting back and forth and around. You might stretch out or up. In the next 5 or 6 rounds of breath, maybe longer, you'll use an exhale to gather your knees into your chest. Maybe a few exhales later, roll onto your favorite side, the left side being more lunar and reflective, the right side more solar and responsive. And pause there to take a moment to practice gratitude for the contributing factors to your practice, your work in this lifetime. You might consider the universe and its existence, the creation of the universe, whatever you know or believe about that. You might think of the stars colliding and our solar system forming, the millions of years of the Earth cooling, the ecological circumstances of this blue and green planet that allows our species to exist and propagate to this point. Consider ancestors, yours and your own lineage, and that of the land you occupy. I'm here on unceded Straight Salish, Samish, and Lummi land. You might consider teachers of all kinds, useful and unuseful to you, knowledge of all lineages and the ways it's been presented with or without violence, with or without love, with or without peace. You might consider collaborators, boons, benefits, privileges, difficulties, obstacles, oppressions. You might consider your own willingness to be in process, to show up again and again and practice kindness, power, peace. Whew. When you're ready, press yourself up to a nice tall seat and we'll seal in practice together. That's a classical chant. I learned it in the lineage of Krishnamacharya from the Ashtanga lineage, but it comes in lots of other lineages. We see it show up. It's another Vedic chant. Its overarching meaning, which always is limited to our English understanding of Sanskrit, which has a different complex communication system, meaning system, as it were, but it's good to offer anyway. The Sahana Vavatu is about learning together, about our structures of togetherness and community, and how we support each other in growing. And even in this community here, in whatever way we're in community, I want to acknowledge it with it. So it means may we together be protected, may we together know joy, may our work together for the liberation of all be brilliant. May we not hate, fight, or dispute amongst one another, and may our work lead us to universal and cosmic peace. If you wish, you can acknowledge non-duality by folding your hands in the Anjali Mudra, or maybe just holding that idea in the eye of your mind, if that's more meaningful. The idea that things that seem opposite or disparate, like right and left, sun and moon, beginning and end, you and all you perceive of as not you, have a meeting place on the spectrum of everything where they become one. And we understand that meeting not with the rationale, the logic of the mind, sorry, there's a bee really into me right now, but instead with the compassion that lies in the cave of the heart. Now you can hold that compassion in the cave of your heart for a moment if you wish to acknowledge that connection, that value, that humility, that largeness and smallness all at once. Thank you for your time, your energy, your effort. If you wish, you might bring your thumbs to your forehead and bow. Acknowledge the work of the practice and your efficacy and sovereignty within it. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you and for letting me be a part of this. 50% of all the proceeds for these video classes going currently through the month to Black Trans Task Force of Washington. There's always information included. I'm always trying to figure out how to be equitable inside of being part of this appropriated wellness practice that I've been trained in as a white person, to figure out where to be and how to support others in this, and how to, unwrite and rewrite and be honest about sort of the ethics of all of it. So I appreciate your patience as I work through that. And if you have thoughts about any of it, if you have questions, it's okay to reach out. It tends to be best to try to find ways to message me directly. Otherwise, I tend not to know if you're just someone in the ether making a comment or if you're really seeking response. Otherwise, thank you for being here, for letting me be a part of it, for taking part in this tool in your own way, for practicing empowerment and kindness. All of the ways to donate are written down. But remember that this is about being here. It's about doing the work. So no one is ever turned away for lack of funds, and you have full permission to be here and to spread this, regardless of sort of how we work through the commodity of the thing, work out the commodity of the thing, as it were, from what we're doing. Thank you for your work, your time, your effort. Hopefully, we will see each other again soon.